Stephen J. Williams, better known as Boogie2988, is one of the most famous faces on the internet. But you could probably write a book on all the factoids you didn't know about Williams. Here is the dark truth of Boogie2988.
Look at this. Wow. My brother, my mother, and me.
Stephen Williams' early life wasn't pleasant by any stretch of the imagination. He didn't have any friends, and his home life did not provide any relief. His father was an alcoholic, and he had a volatile relationship with his mother. But as Williams closed in on college and the possibility of leaving, his outlook on life started to improve, especially when he entered a program that set him on the path towards geekdom. Williams claims that, before college, he enrolled in the government program Upward Bound. Not only did it help him get ready for university life, but he also made his first true friends there. According to Williams, the people at Upward Bound thought he was cool and funny, and they shared the same interests, such as video games and Dungeons and Dragons. However, the Upward Bound program wasn't just an affirmation for Williams. It also introduced a bunch of firsts to his life. Williams got to use his first computer at Upward Bound, and his newfound friends piqued his interest in authors like Douglas Adams and Stephen King. In particular, he discovered a fondness for King's The Dark Tower. Stephen Williams eventually decided to attend the University of Virginia at Wise. Luckily, one of the friends he made at Upward Bound also attended UVA Wise, and this friend just so happened to be a girl, one who eventually became his first girlfriend.
I am the designer of my own destiny.
For a time, things went swimmingly. They dated and assumed they would eventually get married, but that wasn't meant to be.
I'm sexier when you can smell my actual pheromone smell.
According to Williams, for reasons unknown, a schism formed between the two. Williams and his girlfriend started fighting, and while they initially assumed they were simply going through a rough patch and could work things out, that just didn't happen. Eventually, Williams and his girlfriend parted ways. His emotional state sunk and took his grades with it. Williams never graduated from UVA Wise, flunking out. After leaving college, Stephen Williams was in a dark place. He wasn't sure where to turn or what to do with his life. The one bright spot of Williams' life prior to Upward Bound, his brother Brian, held the answer. According to Williams, Brian offered him the opportunity to move to Fayetteville, Arkansas, which would become his permanent home. Brian thought that this was an opportunity for his brother to reinvent himself, so Stephen Williams took that opportunity and subsequently found his future platform, the internet. Despite his lack of a college degree, Williams studiously learned how to code for the internet at a local computer lab. He also found a steady job as a web designer. Moreover, Williams found a passion in Magic the Gathering at Fayetteville. But what is a card game like Magic without people to play with? Fortunately, Fayetteville had plenty of those, and Williams secured more friends than ever before.
You're kidding!
Judge.
All good things must come to an end, and after a few lucky breaks with work and friends, the world came crashing down for Stephen Williams. He entered a depression so deep that he refused to leave the house for 7 years. These feelings were not helped by an ever-expanding internet and an abundance of competing web design coders, which dried up his work. However, he had a roommate to rely on for help, and during his self-imposed isolation, Williams was reborn as Boogie2988 and Francis.
You can't quit! You can't quit! You can't quit!
Eventually, Williams came across the burgeoning website known as YouTube, and he didn't know what to make of it, let alone what to make for it. So he just started with videos where he, quote, ate french fries and acted stupid. One thing led to another, and the character of Francis eventually plopped onto the primordial video platform. Of course, he wasn't an overnight success. Unless you were there for the birth of Francis, you might not know that a video in which his World of Warcraft account was hacked set him off towards stardom. The clip was intentionally overblown, and it caught the attention of another YouTuber, Ray William Johnson, who subsequently shared it. Boogie2988 Francis became famous through word of mouth. Francis is every nerd and geek stereotype rolled into one package. He is slovenly, loses his temper at every inconvenience, and he talks with an exaggerated lisp. That is by design and is drawn from Stephen Williams' experiences, as well as his desire to deliver a message. During an interview with Kotaku, Williams revealed that Francis is based on someone he used to know, himself. He admitted, "I grew up very, very angry. Francis is very close to the person that I was for the first 20 years of my life. Even today, a large portion of who I am is very, very angry." Granted, the anger Williams feels probably is nothing like the anger Francis expresses, but Williams believes that vicariously venting his frustration through Francis is life-saving. Regarding Francis's message, Williams claims that the character is a front. He explained, "I wanted to bring people in with Francis by being a shitty, detestable, laughable, fat stereotype of a nerd neckbeard. I wanted people to just fucking hate him."
Leave Warcraft alone!
Williams wanted to draw audiences in with Francis and blindside them once in a while by revealing the man behind the fake rage. He wanted viewers to challenge their own perceptions, and if they were schoolyard bullies picking on fat kids, he wanted them to be able to rethink their actions and to get to know their targets better, instead of just stealing their lunch money. According to Williams' brother Brian, as retold by Steven, their father was originally pretty laid back and kind of fun. But by the time Williams was born, the man only found solace in drinking. Eventually, these alcoholic habits, combined with smoking and the dangers of working as a coal miner, caught up to Williams' father.
And he basically drank himself into a stroke, damaging his brain. And he was gone for about 6 months for rehabilitation.
He suffered an alcoholic seizure, which rendered him semi-catatonic. He also had health conditions that made him difficult to communicate with.
He couldn't really communicate. He couldn't hear because he was deaf from working in the mines, and he couldn't talk because of his stutter. And
Williams and his mother took care of his father until he passed away due to cancer. Williams' mother didn't fare much better. According to Williams, she was miserable before her husband's death. Shortly afterwards, she broke her leg and it refused to heal, which left her unable to work and inconsolable. After Williams had found success on YouTube, he was told that his mother was in the hospital, gravely ill. She passed away during his visit. Despite the hard feelings between them, Williams was extremely saddened by his mother's death.
She says, "I'm sorry." And I said, "For what?" And she said, "I ruined your life." And I said, "No, Mom, no."
Thankfully, he was able to pull through the devastating time with help from his friends, his career, and his fans.
I have been fat my whole life, and I have to say, it's not all bad.
Steven Williams has acknowledged in the past that he has a problem with maintaining a goal weight, and he has actually made an effort to shed the pounds in the past. However, for him, losing weight is no easy task. That is not because he has a sedentary job, however. Williams has actually been dealing with health problems ever since he was a child. Williams claims he has a pretty lousy immune system. When he was young, he was always sick, either with allergies or just catching viral infections like chickenpox. Because of this fact, Williams often could not find the energy to exercise. To make matters worse, his fellow students made fun of him, calling him all the classic schoolyard taunts, including fat, ugly, and four eyes. The constant illnesses weighed heavily on Williams because they were just another item to add to a growing list of miseries in his young life. One can only guess how differently his life would have turned out had he not gotten sick so easily.
This is what my giant old gross-looking foot looks like. This is what my right foot looks like. Very, very swollen all the time.
Oftentimes, children's health issues clear up when they become adults, but Steven Williams was not so lucky. If anything, his health issues grew more complex as time went on. One of the worst illnesses to ravage Williams' body was lymphedema, which is the swelling of one or both legs or one or both arms, caused by a blockage in the lymphatic system, a crucial part of the body's immune system. Williams' doctor desperately wanted to remove his affected leg. According to the doctor, as revealed in an interview by Kotaku, Williams' legs could literally have split open and bled out when he flew on a plane. Flight risk notwithstanding, it also wasn't easy for Williams to walk with his affected leg. Since Williams refused to undergo an amputation, he was essentially grounded in Fayetteville. Luckily, he had a strong friend-based support group who took him out to eat constantly. That routine did wonders for his mood, at least until it affected his weight gain further.
It's certainly not okay to be morbidly obese, 100 pounds overweight, but if you're 50 pounds or more overweight, you really should consider losing that weight.
According to Williams, the more weight he gains, the sadder he became.
Food is the center of my universe. Yeah, when I'm eating food, I'm thinking about the next thing I'm eating or thinking about the thing I'll eat after that.
Eventually, he decided to nip the problem in the bud, and he elected to undergo gastric bypass surgery. Shortly after Steven Williams lost his mother and was at his lowest point, he met a woman who was experiencing similar feelings. Since she had recently lost her best friend and brother, they started a long-distance relationship, which grew into a short-distance relationship when she moved in with him, and the pair got engaged. The internet would come to know this woman as Desiree Williams. For several years, Steven and Desiree were happy, but just like his first girlfriend, this love did not last. A wedge formed between Steven and Desiree, and eventually they divorced.
And today marks a very special occasion that I want to share with you guys. It is effectively the final tale, the last thing, the end of my divorce.
Thankfully, it apparently wasn't a messy breakup. Steven described the divorce as amicable and said that they are still friends, just not married. It's worth noting that they waited until after Steven had fully recovered from his gastric bypass surgery to finalize the divorce. Steven Williams' recent arrest might be the first time you've heard of him being on the wrong side of the law. However, you might be surprised to hear that he may have skirted around the law in the past. Of course, that depends on whose argument the IRS agrees with. Several years ago, Williams unleashed a contentious bombshell of an admittance. Williams explained that he bought Magic the Gathering cards, wrote them off as business expenses, and then sold them to a friend without declaring the profits on his taxable income forms. While not quite an egregious tax evasion, some Redditors believe it was also a form of tax fraud. Others disagree because Williams only sold cards for about $20, which is less than what he paid for them. Granted, since the IRS has not charged him on the matter, it is difficult to determine whether or not Williams' tax declarations and lack thereof are actually illegal. Recently, Northwest Arkansas's Fox 24 reported that Williams had been arrested because he, quote, discharged a firearm into a residential neighborhood in 2020. Sites such as Newsweek elaborated that he didn't aim the weapon at anyone, but instead, quote, allegedly fired a gun into the air as a warning shot. Who was he trying to ward off? Fellow content creator Frank Hassel, who was banned from the platform in 2021 and who has allegedly threatened and harassed Williams on multiple occasions.
Where's the gun at, you fat Open fire! Open fire!
Since Steven Williams was arrested following these events, your first thought might be, when will he go to trial? After all, the Sixth Amendment of the Constitution guarantees a fair and timely trial with a jury of one's peers. Unfortunately, the term timely is subjective. Several months after Williams' confrontation with Frank Hassel, Deserto reported that an arrest warrant was issued for Williams in Washington County, Arkansas. The warrant charged him with aggravated assault and set the bond for $5,000. Williams reportedly stated that he would do the right thing and cooperate with the authorities. And that's exactly what he did. According to Williams' Twitter timeline, he turned himself in and quickly made bail. Also, he plans to plead not guilty when the trial inevitably starts.
I like who I am. I'm not perfect. I've made and said and done some really stupid things. But you know what? I like me.
Check out one of our newest videos right here. Plus, even more SVG videos about your favorite things are coming soon. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the bell so you don't miss a single one.